Hi, and welcome to the International Council for Men and Boys podcast, Celebrating Men. I'm Larry DeMarco, your host, and the executive manager of the International Council for Men and Boys. Go to the description portion of this video for more information about us. Today, we are here with our first inaugural guest, Tom Golden, a top therapist and author and host of the podcast, Men Are Good. Tom, thank you for being our first guest.
I'm honored to be number one.
Why are you passionate about helping men?
That's a long story, Larry, but to make a short answer, I'm passionate about helping men because I love men just the way they are. And I see that men are misunderstood, so completely misunderstood. And I want to bring to the world what men are really like so that people can start to love them as they are.
Very good. Tell us about your practice and your online work.
My online work is with the Substack, mostly the Substack, menaregood.substack.com. And I just love it. And I do things about feminism and how feminism has ruined things for men in so many ways, and about men and how we're different. And I have a whole section on understanding men, which is all the research that's been done on men that people don't see. So that's my passion, is really bringing understanding about who men are, why they do the things they do.
I want to go straight into a lightning round of questions, Tom, because you cover so much and have so much to say. You've written 3 books about men, boys, and healing. What first led you to explore this particular emotional territory?
Well, the first thing was I got out of graduate school and I wanted to go to work and help some people. And so I go to this death and dying center, and my clientele was almost all males. The females I worked with were easy. Everything I'd been taught in graduate school to do worked just fine with them. But the men, not so much. I was struggling. And so it was the struggle, really, the initial struggle, that brought me into the idea of, well, what's going on with men? And even at that time, Larry, we knew that emotional tears were limited by testosterone. People still don't know this. That the testosterone, when boys get to be 12 or 13 years old, their testosterone goes up and their tears come down.
Wow. Was there anything particular that helps you understand the differences between men and the way they heal?
Yeah, when I started working, I didn't know exactly where to go, but I bumped into this research, this anthropological cross-cultural research on grief and indigenous people. And it opened my eyes. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I read study after study after study. They all had the same thing. What they showed was, in indigenous groups, women were given a place to emote and to talk to each other and to support each other. Men were given things to do, tasks to do: build the casket, dig the grave, give the eulogy, take care of the ritual, take care of the guests, all of these things to do. So it made me think, oh my gosh, are there things that men do that are helpful with their grief? And then I started looking at things differently. And I started looking at men's actions rather than what they say. And that's when it opened up for me.
In your book, Swallowed by a Snake, you introduce the idea of masculine grief. What is it and how does it differ from what people usually expect grief to look like?
Masculine grief is, you got to understand one thing first, and that is that almost always, in order to process emotion, strong emotion, we got to feel safe. We have to feel a little bit safe. And women feel safe in a face-to-face kind of thing. Men feel safe shoulder to shoulder, which I didn't know when I first started off. But the more I realized it, the easier it got. And so the masculine side is showing how men tend to heal in a shoulder to shoulder mode through action or inaction. A lot of times men will deal with their emotions by being quiet and by processing internally. And people see that as what? They see it as, oh, he's cold, he's not dealing with it. But it's not true at all, because men are dealing with things in a different way, action or inaction, which throws people off completely.
And why is that men are moved to action or inaction with grief in contrast to women? Is that the testosterone thing?
That's part of it. The bigger part is no one wants to hear men's pain. I was saying that I've developed. A woman's pain is a call to action, and a man's pain is taboo. Nobody wants to hear it. Plus, men are stuck in this hierarchical space. As men, we live in a hierarchy. And testosterone pushes us from one side to strive for status, and precarious manhood pushes us from the other side to strive for status. And we're pushed into this hole where we want to be first, we want to be independent, we want to accomplish things, right? And so if you're going to accomplish things and be independent, that means you better not go into public and talk about your emotions because your status will drop like a rock. That's why men move to action and inaction.
From your clinical experience, why is it so easy for others, including therapists, to misread or even pathologize the way men heal?
Yeah, it's easy because they simply don't know. They are ignorant of the nature of men and the way we are. There's been so much research out there about this, and people simply don't understand what's going on. The whole hierarchy thing, testosterone about striving for status, and precarious manhood pushing you from the other side. All these things build up and make men very unique, very different from women. Women do not have the same push. Women do not understand this push. One of the things testosterone does is it pushes men to have what they call threat vigilance, which means if someone threatens your status, you fight back. You don't take that shit, right? And guess what? Men understand this, but women look at that and go, oh, why can't he just let that go? What's wrong with him? Why can't he? Right? And that's because men have biological push to defend their status. Women don't understand this at all. Some men don't understand it either.
A question about storytelling. In The Way Men Heal, you write that men tell their stories through action. Can you explain what that means and share a memorable example?
Oh, geez. Well, the whole storytelling thing is important because anytime you heal anything, you're basically telling story. Women tell their story by interacting, by talking with each other, by supporting each other. Men tell their story by through action or inaction. It's through what they do. And a good way to examine this would be looking at the story of Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, famous basketball player, his father was murdered. After the father was murdered, I think it was about a month afterwards, Jordan called a press conference. I'm leaving basketball. And then a month later, he said, and I'm going to go play minor league baseball. Everyone was, what the hell's wrong with Jordan? What's going on with him? Why is he doing this? This is crazy. What people didn't understand, Larry, was that Jordan and his father were very close, but Jordan's father always told Jordan, you need to be a baseball player. You could be the best baseball player ever. No one in the world would even touch you. So Jordan was honoring his father by stopping this storied career and going back to baseball. He didn't do real well. But the point is that he did this as an action that honored his father, because that's what happens. Men will use action and couple it with honoring, and that brings meaning.
Tom, that is such a beautiful story for a man who walked away as the greatest of all time and took 2 years to become a bad minor league baseball player.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
And people still don't realize that it was his love for his father that pushed him to do so. I talk about Jordan as being a real good example of the mature masculine, you know?
Very good.
Yep.
That's not widely known, Tom.
Right. And because it's not widely known, it's obvious that people simply are misjudging him. They're saying, oh, well, there's something wrong with him. Why did he do that? They don't understand what's going on underneath because men are quiet about this stuff, Larry. They're quiet. They don't broadcast, oh, I'm grieving in this way. A lot of times men don't even know they're doing it. Men do this automatically, just as women automatically talk about things, right? Men will automatically go and take some sort of action or inaction.
Not that I would criticize the greatest of all time, but without speaking about it, he allowed a narrative that the commissioner forced him to do that because of a gambling debt. Do you remember that false narrative?
I forget.
Oh yeah, that's what the whispers were, but we
Yeah.
digress. We'll get back on script here. How do masculine healing actions like building, creating, or competing, like Michael Jordan, actually help process emotional pain?
Because in the same way that women process their emotion through talking, through telling their story verbally, men tell the story through action or inaction. Another example is Clapton. Eric Clapton's 3-year-old son died falling out of a damn window. Horrible death. And Clapton was in what he called a waking nightmare for a long time after that. What did Clapton do? He wrote 3 songs. Everyone knows about Tears in Heaven, which was about his son dying. But there was two more. There was My Father's Eyes, which was a song Clapton wrote to thank his son for giving him a look at his father's eyes because he'd never met his father. And the third one is the most powerful. It's, The Circus Left Town. And it's all about Clapton took his son to the circus the night before. And the song is about telling his son, I can no longer take you to the circus. This was our last chance to go to the circus. Can you see the emotion piled into those songs? Can you see that? It's amazing. It's just amazing. And people don't realize that every time he's practicing writing these songs, what's happening? He's telling the story of his son's death. This is grief. This is mature, masculine grief right there.
You emphasize that invisibility is a key issue. Men's emotional lives often go unseen. Why is this invisibility so important to understand?
Well, it's important because if you don't see it, you think they're sloughing off. You think they're not dealing with their feelings. It's like this mother that came to me, and I get a lot of mothers that come to me in my practice and say, my son, my teenage son, he's not crying. He's not crying. They don't understand that. Of course he's not crying. His testosterone's bringing those tears down. But this one mother came to me one time. She said, can you see my son in therapy? I said, no. But tell me what's going on. Because seeing a child in therapy just takes too long. I said, what's going on? Well, he never cries. He never talks about his father, but his father died 6 months ago. I said, okay, what does he like to do? He loves to play basketball. He and his father played a lot of basketball together. I said, okay, your assignment this week is to go home and play basketball with him and see what happens. She came back to me the next week and she said, oh my God, now I understand. Because they were playing, the first thing he did was, you suck, Mom. You can't play like Dad. You suck. But then he said, Mom, last time he made a 3-point, what do you call a 3-point shot? He said, I made this 3-point shot. Dad always wanted me to be able to make that shot. And the first time I did it out here, I just started crying. I couldn't stop crying. She understood at that point, holy crap. If I can be shoulder to shoulder with him, if I can do things together with him and not push him to talk about things, by George, he's probably going to open up just like he did then. It was a safe place for him. Playing basketball was safety for him, just like talking for women is safety. And that's what boys and men need, some sort of safety in order to open up.
Well said. So let's continue to pivot to boys. In helping mothers be closer to their sons, you explore how male development begins early. What are a few ways boyhood is distinctly shaped from the start?
Oh boy, a couple of months after the pregnancy, when the boy's 2 months in utero, there's this thing called the testosterone flood, which floods his brain with testosterone in utero. And this changes everything. It changes his levels of aggression. It changes his interest in the way he's going to play. It changes his sexual orientation, and it changes his sexual identity. All of those things. At the same time, it also does what they call testosterone priming. So the cells in his brain get primed and ready for testosterone later in life. Just this little bit changes the boys into what they are calling now systematized brains. Boys and men are interested more in systems, and women and girls are interested more in relationships. Now, we need to say right there, Larry, that there's going to be some men who are more interested in feelings and some women more interested in systems. It's not a black and white thing. And we don't want to try and pigeonhole anybody. What we want to do is to be able to say, how are you unique? What is your uniqueness, and how can I love you for that?
Thank you. What is precarious manhood, and how does it
Ooh.
affect the emotional lives of boys as they grow up?
Precarious manhood is another thing people do not know about. But precarious manhood is the social push that pushes boys to be, quote, men. Because girls, when they have their first period, they become women. Everyone goes, oh, she's a woman now. But when a boy is 15, 16, do they say he's a man? No, he's got to prove it. And he's got to prove it over and over again. And guess what? If he doesn't prove it, he can lose it. So men walk around always knowing that they've got to keep this image up that shows that they're manly. And if they don't, they could lose that title as man. This is huge, something that women do not understand. They do not experience it, but men do all the time. This is why, as men, we will tend to not emote so much in public, because we got this precarious manhood push, which is both women and men pushing men to strive for status and to try and be men. And it's a tough road for men. And most men don't even know this is the case, because you've got to be pushed to be a man and maintain that sense and you could lose it.
Many moms want to connect emotionally with their sons, but it doesn't always go as they hoped. What's one common mistake mothers make, and how can they shift their approach?
Oh boy, the most common mistake is to expect that he's going to be like their daughters, which is a very common mistake for women because they didn't grow up as boys. They have no way of knowing what it's like to be a boy. And I encourage mothers to make sure the dads are involved because the dads know, the dads understand. Have you ever heard a dad say to his son, "You're not dealing with your feelings"? No. Why not? Because he understands. He's got it down. But the woman, "You're not dealing with your feelings," because she expects him to be like her. That's a huge mistake. That's the biggest mistake for women. They need to understand that we're different. And bless his heart, he's not going to be like you. He's going to do things differently. Go play some basketball with him. Go take a walk together. Arm wrestle. Things like that. He'll open right up. Because what opens up men, Larry? The thing that opens up men, there's two things: admiration and respect. If you can do those two things for men or boys, even, they'll open to you. You know?
You're sharing some content that definitely needs to be shared. I'm glad we're doing this.
Good.
Moving on. Storytelling and side-by-side connection come up a lot in your work. Why are these forms of interaction so powerful for boys and men?
Oh, because that's our primary mode to heal. I mean, storytelling through action or inaction, and being able to then tell that story that's our loss, and that's healing. That's what brings us to a place of where we can be in the present moment. Because, healing is we can tell whether we're there or not, whether we're in the present tense. If we're thinking in the here and now, we're probably healed up. But if we're pulled into the past, that's depression. If we're pulled into the future, that's anxiety. So healing, being healed, is being in the present. We're here now, being alive.
You argue that male pain is often ignored or misjudged. What are the consequences of this for men and for the people who love them?
We're basically living in a lopsided world. If you can't understand men and their pain, how can you appreciate them for who they are? You can't. It's lopsided. We do all we can for women and girls, and we forget about the men. We forget about their pain. We forget about their anxiety. We forget about anything. It's this gynocentrism, which we haven't talked about yet, but gynocentrism is the underlying driver for all of this. And gynocentrism is basically the cultural blind spot where we automatically think that women's needs and women's wants, women's desires should be put in ahead of men's. That's gynocentrism. If you want to, I did one post on this. I asked ChatGPT, "What is gynocentrism?" Thinking it was going to give me a bunch of BS. It gave me about 5 paragraphs that blew me away. And I've got that on my Substack site. It's well worth looking at.
Well, but did chat know it was talking to you? It probably gave back to you your own content, maybe.
It told me things I didn't know.
Oh, interesting. Oh, real
Oh, boy.
interesting.
Yeah.
That
That's why I developed an appreciation for AI at that point. Because before that, I thought it was just going to be programmed by feminists and by blue pillars and whatever. But it's telling you the truth in some ways. But you've got to demand it. You have to demand the truth.
Well,
And you
I'm a
got to
big
argue
fan.
with it.
I'm a big fan of AI. I don't know if you know that. So
Oh,
I'm a
I didn't
believer.
know that, but I
Oh,
am
yeah.
too, man.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been wonderful for me. It's just been wonderful.
And I want to thank you for all the custom chats that you made and shared with everyone on your Substack. I noticed, I appreciated it, I quote it, and thanks again.
Well, thank you.
How can we create space at home, at school, or in therapy for the masculine side of healing to be recognized and respected?
Yeah, man. Well, the first thing you got to do is understand it. Because if you don't see it, you can't help it. But we can do things like the shed movement in Australia. Are you familiar with that? They have this movement where they take a house, usually it's someone who dies, they give their house away and they fill it with tools, TVs, kitchen stuff, and only men come in to work together on projects or watch TV together. It's a space where men can be together. That's what you want. You want men to be together because once men are together shoulder to shoulder, good things happen. It's like when my father died. My father died, and after that, my brother and I built a box to hold his ashes, right? And we were down in his house, and his friends would come by, his male friends would come by. The groups of us would be working on this box. And as we're working on the box, guess what's happening? We're telling stories about my dad. and we're cussing each other and saying, you didn't do this part right, and whatever. That's what men do, right? But we're also telling stories about my dad. They were telling us about the recent stuff, and we told about what it was like when we were little. Now, you take that same group of men, Larry, put them in the living room in a circle and say, talk about this man's death. You'll get zero, zero. But working on a project together, guess what? We all opened up. It was a safe place for us.
If there's one thing, and I'm not going to limit you to one if you want to give more, but the question is, something that you hope readers take away from your books, what would it be? What truth do you feel most need to, what truth or truths do you feel need to be heard right now?
I think the most important one is to know that men are unique. Men are very different. And the more we can study that, the better. The more you know men for who they are, the more you can love them. You can't really love men not knowing, thinking they should be more like women. So would be my gift is to say, if people could get that from my books, that they, oh my gosh, men are different, then I'd have succeeded. I'd feel good about it. And of course, men are good.
Very good. Tom, people who are looking at their computers can go to the description portion of the video to see your contact information. But for those who are driving and listening, can you verbally tell people where to learn more about Tom Golden?
Yeah, the easiest place to come would be Substack, or excuse me, would be menaregood.substack.com. There's a lot of stuff there, huge amount of information, a good communities built. So come and visit us. Be good to see you.
Tom, let's leave it there. And I want to thank you for being our inaugural guest on the International Council for Men podcast, Celebrating Men.
Thank you. It was good to be here.
We've been here with Tom Golden. I am your host, Larry DeMarco. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and comment, and click the notification bell next to the subscribe button to be alerted of new videos. Go to the description portion of this video when you can learn more about Tom Golden, Men Are Good, and the International Council for Men and Boys. Signing off. Tune in next time. Bye for now.